Now we will learn a lesson of Rabash from the study of the 10 Sefirot, part 4. We are in chapter 5, item 1. And before that, we'll read a preparation excerpt for the lesson. It's from Rav's words on August 9th, 2025. Maybe we cannot really discover in Rabash's words his power. But as much as we know, his power is revealed through his words, through the voice that comes out of his throat, and reaches our heart. This is what is going to change the world. Again, we may not be able to reveal Rabash's power in his words, but as much as we know, his power is revealed through his words, through the voice that comes out of his throat and reaches our heart. This is what is going to change the world. Now we will read together from Baal HaSulam, the study of the 10 Sefirot, part 1, chapter 5, part 4, item 1. Headline: The lights of Akudim have 10 inner Sefirot and 10 surrounding Sefirot. They shine in the anterior and also sideways and all around Ak. Item 1. The 10 inner Sefirot and 10 surrounding Sefirot emerged from the Peh of Adam Kadmon. They are extended from opposite the anterior to opposite the tabu of this Adam Kadmon. This is the main light, but it also shines through the sides and all around this Adam. Now we will listen to Rabash.
Item 1 we learn. It is written here that from Peh of Ak, 10 internal Sefirot and 10 surrounding Sefirot emerged, below in inner light. We should ask why it is in contradiction to that which is written above. In Tevav, item 18, what's written there? That from Peh of Ak, only the 5 internal and 2 surrounding emerge. Why is he saying here 10? Answer: because there he's speaking about the inclusive surrounding ones. But the individual ones, you have no light that won't have internal and surrounding, as it's written in its place. If I say 10 inner Sefirot, we must say that there are 10 surrounding Sefirot. Why? He talks of a rule. What is this rule? There is no light that won't have an internal and surrounding. Why? Why must I say that there is no light that won't have an internal and a surrounding? Because there is a rule after the restriction. There is no light that doesn't come but through the coupling. Without coupling, there's no light. What is a coupling? Coupling by striking. What is the coupling by striking? It extends light, and through that light, it rejects it, makes a calculation how much he can aim in order to receive, in order to bestow, and will receive that as inner light, and the rest he rejects outwards and cannot receive it now. What extends from the part that he receives is inner light. What he does not receive is surrounding light. Turns out that there are 5 couplings, ta'amim, nikudot, in each degree. I need to say that there are 5 times the inner light and 5 times surrounding light. That 5 is always considered to coarseness, and this we need to remember. Or we should explain, even without coupling, I can also say it. If I say Malchut receives 10 internal lights, what is the meaning? That each and every phase, each disturbance, every part receives part and relieves a part. We don't need to say this about 5 couplings. Also in one coupling we can learn 10 internals and 10 surroundings. Everything one receives, it leaves a part. That's what is written, and we need to learn. And we get to be said in short, but you'd get confused. I can also now scrutinize this. Sometimes it is written 3 internal ones and 2 surrounding. And this is not what we're talking now. That belongs to the second restriction. We're talking now about what's in Ak, in the first restriction. He speaks there for there to be a kli called a recognizable kli. The kli needs to receive first internal light and surrounding light. And after the inner light departs, the surrounding light departs, then the kli becomes a kli that has a deficiency and is distinguishable. Can be distinguished. Hence he says that in the Partzuf Galgalta, where the departure of light was during the Nikudot, and vessels were made. So the vessels for the upper 3 was not yet there. The vessels for Zeranpin and Malchut. Why? As they had 5 internal lights and 2 surrounding. This we will learn later. It's a waste of time now. So there he says like this. While the coupling took place on the vessel of Malchut, upon the coarseness of phase 4, Malchut has but all the light of Nefesh. But she has Naran Chai. Here he thinks the order that comes, always comes the smaller light, and when she receives in a more refined vessel. Hence, first comes the light of Nefesh in the vessel of Keter, and then comes the light of Ruach in the Kli of Keter. In the end, when the light of Yechidah comes in the Kli of Keter, the light of Nefesh descends to the Kli of Malchut. He says that they all emerge from the phase of Nefesh. The all light is not revealed, but in Nefesh. And where we say there is none Chai, there's no addition in the lights, just an addition in the vessels. Addition in the vessels, meaning each vessel distinguishes the light as a new discernment. Therefore, the light of Nefesh, which comes in the Keter, and comes till the Malchut, there are 5 vessels and 5 discernments, called Na'an Chai. He says that when Nefesh comes to the vessel of Malchut, Nefesh of Ruach comes to the vessel of Zeranpin. It turns out that Ruach had only 4 vessels. There's only only Chaya of Ruach. He doesn't have Chaya of Ruach. And when the Neshama descended until Binah, then Zeranpin was already a vessel of Zeranpin. There are only 3 vessels of Neshama. It has Neshama of Neshama. When the light of Chokhmah comes until the vessel of Chokhmah, the vessel of Binah no longer has Neshama. It doesn't have Chaya, it only has 2 vessels. It has Ruach of Chaya. And the light of Yechidah comes in the Kli of Keter. It has the Kli, the light of Yechidah has only 1 Kli and 1 light. Later he says, when Malchut was refined and rose to phase 3 of coarseness, then the vessel of Zeranpin benefited with a vessel. Now it only has Yechidah of Chaya, Yechidah of Ruach. The Kli of Zair Anpin, a light that comes to the Kli of Zair Anpin, illuminates below in the vessel of Malchut. It's very difficult. We have many questions about this. It turns out that the coupling was above her face. She can only receive surrounding light. Hence, it is more refined than her. Hence, now, Yechidah of Ruach has, and Malchut has, the surrounding of Chaya as well. Who did she receive from? From the Kli of Zeranpin. And each and every one, that which remains in the degree, received another degree. If Zeranpin received Yechidah, the Neshama received Chaya, and Chaya received Neshama, and Yechidah, nothing. The light departed, and Yechidah, the light of Yechidah was already departed. And then also the Kli of Zeranpin was refined, rose to Binah, and Binah now has Yechidah of Neshama. From Yechidah of Neshama to Zeranpin is a higher discernment. So Zeir Anpin receives surrounding.
And
Malchut of phase 4 is higher by 2 degrees from him and has 2 surroundings, more surroundings, surrounding of Chaya and surrounding of Yechidah. Then we learn Chaya attains nothing. It was already departed, and there's only phase 2 there. Then she was refined to phase 1. The matter of the istaklut, the observation of Ak, Malchut did not receive nothing. Malchut remained 5 internal and 2 surrounding. Zeir Anpin was before with 1 surrounding, now received another surrounding. Binah didn't receive anything because there's no coarseness of phase 2 and phase 1. It turns out that Binah departed and Yechidah of Neshama, Zeir Anpin 5 internal and 2 surrounding, and also Zeir Anpin, and also Malchut 5 internal and 2 surrounding. And where we say 3 internal and 2 surrounding, it's a completely different matter. Malchut that rose to Binah, there are 3 internal vessels called Shoresh Neshama Guf. That's the clothing is the external thing. This is already a kli of Zeir Anpin, an external vessel for the surrounding of Chaya. And Malchut as an external vessel of surrounding Yechidah. Item 2, what is written here? And against the panim until the tabur of Adam HaGadol, they extend. What does it have to do in saying panim, inside or inner in spirituality? What is it? Tabu? Next. And this is the main light, but also it illuminates through the sides. What are sides in spirituality? All the surroundings is Adam, even posterior. What is posterior in spirituality? Let's see what he explains here. The explanation. There are 2 phases of lights that are distinguished in a complete partzuf. The first is called the light of Chokhmah, and the second is called the light of Chasadim. Against them, we discern in each partzuf 2 illuminations. Light is called just light. But now he is talking about light that is clothed in the vessel. How do we call them? 2 illuminations. One is called that it illuminates in the degree from right to left, and the second that illuminates from the degree of interior and posterior, face and panim and achol. And so he says, right and left is attributed to the illumination of Chasadim. And when it illuminates Chasadim, it gives an implication right and left.
Right means that he bestows. There are chasadim there. Left means that there are no chasadim there. Interior and posterior is attributed to the illumination of Chokhmah. So we already know what is anterior. It is a place where the light of Chokhmah can shine. It's called anterior in spirituality. What is posterior in spirituality? A place where the light of Chokhmah cannot shine. What is right in spirituality? When Chasadim shines. Left, lack of Chasadim, absence of it. These are symbols or intimations. Next, it is known that the first restriction was primarily on the light of Chokhmah, that it would not be revealed in phase 4. Therefore, the Parzufim were divided into anterior and posterior, where the phases above phase 4, above Malchut, above Malchut's control, there's a screen where they can receive in order to bestow, which receive the light of Chokhmah. These phases are called anterior. And those degrees that are incorporated with phase 4, with Malchut, that they could not receive the light of Chokhmah, are called posterior. Now, both in the anterior and in the posterior, there is right and left. The phases that receive the light of Chasadim abundantly are called right. And the phases that do not receive the light of Chasadim abundantly are called left. You should also know that the names anterior and posterior are discerned mainly with respect to the tabul. From the tabul and above, which is called above Malchut, it is called anterior, since there the light of Chokhmah shines. And from tabul and below, it is called posterior, and there the light of Chokhmah can no longer shine. What does he say there? He says, the screen of tabul, I don't want to receive, because Malchut of the Guf is called tabul. And he said, they are drawn from opposite the anterior to opposite the tabul, meaning that the expansion of those 10 Sefirot from the Pei of Ak and below, and it is extended and shines mainly in the anterior of the Parzuf, which is above phase 4, which is called tabul. But from tabul downward, it does not shine, due to the restriction that rides over phase 4, over Malchut. And for Malchut of tabul, he says, I don't want to receive, because if I receive, it'll be in order to receive. Nevertheless, he tells us, and that's the main part of the light, but it also shines through the sides and all around the Parzuf, meaning also to the phase of anterior in it, below the tabul, but it reaches it through the sides, meaning from the right side and the left side, which are Chasadim, because through the reflected light that phase 4 brings into the Parzuf, which is light of Chasadim, by not wanting to receive. Why? For equivalence of form, by which she obtains reflected light. You find that in that reflected light, there is also illumination of Chokhmah, but in the state of female light, which means only receiving and not bestowing. Receiving and not bestowing, we need to explain to ourselves. He does not draw for himself, but she says, I don't want to receive. Except what? By not wanting to receive, by wanting equivalence of form, by which he gives reflected light, which is called light of Chasadim, when he wants equivalence of form and illumination of Chokhmah shines there. So the illumination of Chokhmah that shines receives. It does not bestow upon him, extending the abundance, but what he gives her is called giving her, not having anything of its own except what he gives her. Then she herself draws. On the contrary, she says, I don't want to receive. When she does want to receive, there's the departure of the light. Let's begin item 2. 240. It should not surprise you what we wrote above, that the light from the left ozen, ear, it enters the peh, the mouth. The externality of the vessel is made from it, and from the whole of the left chotem, the left nostril, the internality of the vessel is made. What is written? The light of the left ozen enters the peh, becomes the externality of the vessel, and from the whole of the left chotem, nostril, chotem is nose, the internality of the vessel is made. Why specifically left? He doesn't say. Only the left ear that enters the peh. The externality of the vessel is made. The whole of the left chotem is left, the internality of the vessel. What about the right? He doesn't say. And since a great surrounding light, and a great and fine surrounding light, surrounding light is greater and finer than inner light, nevertheless, the internality of the vessel is greater than the externality of the vessel, as is seen by the sense of the rosh, the sense of the eye, the sight. What we see, the internality of the vessel, is more important for us, whereas the lights, which light is more important? Surrounding light. Why? Because it's a great light, which the vessel could not draw and receive within it. So it shines on the outside as surrounding light. And the small light remains inside. You find that the surrounding light is greater. Whereas in the vessels, we see the opposite. Which is more important? The inner vessel. Therefore, he asks, how, from the perspective of the ozen, which is higher, which is the vessel of Bina, there will be the externality of the vessel, which is not so important, from the chotem, which is lower, the vessel of Zaranpin, the internality of the vessel will be, which is not so important. What is the question? The externality of the vessel is not so important. It should be from a high degree. Then it is a low vessel, from a lower vessel from Ranpin. The externality of the vessel is not so important. From where is it made? From a higher degree, from Bina. This is what he's asking. Let's see what he says below. 3. Know that there are 2 necessary phases in each vessel, which are state of extension, drawing, and the state of reception. Because the coarser phase is finer for drawing the light. Wants to draw the light. The coarseness of phase 4 draws the level of Keter. Coarseness, a finer, more refined coarseness of phase 3 draws the level of Chokhmah. Its opposite is in the matter of reception and clothing of the light, because in it, concerning clothing, more refined is better. Why? When the light clothes the vessel, there should be it must have equivalence of form with the light that is received in it. The vessel must be in equivalence of form with the light from which it receives. Therefore, a vessel for a greater light dresses in a more refined vessel, more equivalence with bestowal. You find that the light of Keter, what is it clothed? In the most refined vessel. The light of Malchut in the coarsest vessel. But the extension of the light of Keter is actually in the coarseness of Malchut, who herself receives only the light of Malchut. These two phases are sometimes called upper and lower, and sometimes they're called internality and externality. We should know the difference between them. What's the difference? When I say upper and lower, when I say internality and externality. He says, the thing is that when we speak of a complete level that has extension and clothing, they are regarded as upper and lower because the more the internality, meaning the vessel, is the better vessel is coarser, you find that it draws a higher level. For example, if his internality is phase 4, you find that it closes up to the level of Keter. You find that the extension is lower, meaning coarser, and since the light of Keter must have a more refined vessel in which it can clothe, then with respect to the clothing, it is higher, meaning more refined, meaning it has a vessel of Keter, the more refined vessel, the most refined vessel, until it is worthy of clothing the light of Keter. Therefore, when we speak of a complete level, the 4 phases, one above the other, are discerned, meaning the more refined is higher. What is he telling us here? We see with respect to extension, the degree must be coarser. With respect to the clothing of the light, it's the opposite. It needs to be equivalence of form between the vessel and the light. The more refined can receive a higher degree. Therefore, when speaking of a complete degree, where there is extension of Keter, and the light of Keter shines in the vessel of Keter, we name it one above the other, where the light shines in the most refined vessel.
Although when we're talking only about the vessel of extension, we're not talking about how the light clothes inside the degree. 4 phases are discerned to us, like the wall of a vessel, which has 4 shells, one upon another in its coarseness. And the abundance within it is received and measured only in its internal shell. And in the 3 external shells, there is no contact whatsoever. That's how it is in corporeality. And they serve the vessel only to strengthen the inner shell of the wall. Also, In the vessel of drawing, of extension, we discern there the four phases which clothe one another, and whoever's coarser is more internal. And the phase 4, which is the main extension of the upper light by coupling by striking, where the upper light is measured exactly on the level of reflected light, which is the raising, the elevator. It's considered the internality of the vessel. And the rest of the three phases are considered the externality of the vessel, meaning they don't touch the light there and serve it. These are causes for the causes of the phase 4 that will be revealed to us. What is he saying here? When we speak about the extension of lights, we're talking internal and external. Internal is considered that which is extended, and externality is that which we don't extend. It's called 4 is called internal towards 3, 3 is internal towards 2, 2 towards 1. That's what he's saying here. So what did he explain to us? What is the meaning internality and externality? We're talking about coarseness, internality, and externality of the screens. And in the lower one, we're talking as far as the clothing of the light in the vessels. That's what he explained it here. The main allegory here comes, and what are we learning? Who is called Malchut? Phase 4. Why? As 4 is called the desire to receive. And what are the previous 3 phases? Light and vessel. Not light and not vessel, only what? You can't take out phase 4. Before there was phase 3.
Phase 3, you mean 3 of coarseness?
We learned that the 3 phases are called the upper 9 or the first 9, and Malchut is called phase 4. That's the main story. Whereas they serve for something else, and the other thing is not 100%. Why? We say that they cause phase 4 to emerge. That's customary in all places. Every light illuminates only in Malchut. The main thing we talk of is we're talking about the goof of the degree, which is the expansion of Malchut. What's in the Rosh expands in the goof. What is Malchut of Rosh? From it expanded and rises as 10 Sefirot. It turns out that in truth, below the Rosh, there's no more than Malchut. What are the first 9? The light. What is Malchut? What she receives? Malchut, when she begins to receive, is called the goof, body. And here he says, from the the light of Ozen small of the left ear, it became the externality of the vessel, which is phase 2 of coarseness. From Nekev Chotem left becomes the internality of the vessel, meaning that it's phase 3. That is that whoever's coarser is more internal. They always serve the upper phase. Hence, he explained to us what is left Ozen and what is left Chotem. And we also need to start with item 4, inner light. Let's start with item 4. He asks 2 questions. 1. Because the surrounding light is greater than the internal light, there should have been that the externality of the vessel would be more important than the internality of the vessel. Why? since it serves a great light, the surrounding light. But in reality, we see the opposite. Since the internality of the vessel is all the importance in the degree, and the entire measure of its level and vitality of the degree depends on it, on the internality. Whereas the externality of the vessel does not have too much importance. And the second question is, if in truth, as we see, the internality of the vessel is much more important than the externality of the vessel, hence she should have been extended, the internality of the vessel, to a most important root, meaning phase 2, where the Rosh is called Ozen and Bina, and the externality of the vessel, which I see that is not quite important, would extend to a lower root, meaning from phase 3, Zeranpin. And why is it the other way? Where the externality of the vessel is higher and extends from the higher root from Bina, and the internality of the vessel, what does it serve? The inner light. Not the internality of the vessel comes from the root of Zeranpin and more below. We'll see above item 3. The answer in this, you should know that the entire light is equal in one equivalence. And when he wanted to gather and be limited within the vessel, then that light that could not enter the vessel remained outside as a surrounding, and the internal illuminates within the vessel. And the light moves until the half of the wall of the vessel from its internality, and the surrounding light illuminates outside the vessel and moves up to the half thickness of the wall of the vessel as far as its externality. And through these two lights, the light illuminates and is refined. And here we need that the half of the vessel on the outside will illuminate due to the surrounding light. And here, the surrounding is very light. The surrounding light is very great. And its illumination would not move to be swallowed and illuminating within the wall of the vessel, since there's a distancing and great gap between them. Hence, the internality was necessitated to be worse, to equalize with the inner light, which is worse, to illuminate in one another. And the externality, the more refined externality of the vessel, will illuminate in the more refined surrounding light. If not so, the externality would remain a vessel without illumination. What did he imply here? He explained about the question, why surrounding light, which is a greater light, clothes in a worse vessel, an external vessel, and an internal light which is more smaller in a more important vessel, which is internal. And for this he comes and explains to us the great surrounding light, which is great, also needs to illuminate, and if the externality of the vessel was not so refined, then it could not receive from the surrounding light. as the surrounding light is a greater light. Therefore, a more important vessel is needed. Whereas the inner light, which is more smaller, can receive from a lesser vessel from above, which is not so important, and they'll get along. But why is the internal vessel more important? He did not explain. With the help of the roots, it is written below in item 5. What is written in 5? Because the entire light was equalized in one equivalence. 5, meaning there's no distinction of the light itself and the vessel, as far as the vessel. He says all the changes are only as far as the vessels, and the light is but one light. Okay, if that's what we have. Only when he wanted to convene and be limited within the vessel. 6. Explanation. That the measure of illumination is limited and dependent on the measurements, on the measures of the vessel, and no less or more. As the coarseness of phase 4 extends, the level of Keter, and phase 3, only the level of Chokhmah, and phase 2, Binah, etc. What else is he adding? He wants to explain what's the meaning here. That when he wanted to gather and be limited within the vessel, there's a corporeal vessel. I say it's limited within the vessel. But if we're talking about spirituality, what's the meaning limited within the vessel? So he says that when he wanted to gather in, be limited within the vessel, to the extent in which the vessel can receive it in order to bestow, that is what gives us discernments. Whereas prior to the restriction, there were no matter of discernments, but rather everything was one simple light. According to what he says, that it was limited and dependent on the measures of the vessel, meaning the screen.